Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Honor the Feminine podcast. I'm your host, Shannon Ledford, and today we have Patricia Wald-Hopkins with us, and we're about to go on a really fun journey. As you know, we start each episode with an image and story from my travels, because when I was traveling is when I really started to hear my intuition again. She'd gotten lost in the daily noise and chaos and expectations. And when I got out in the world, I started to hear her whispers again. I know she was always there, but she'd just gotten muddled. And today, our image is called Mandala Ceiling, and it was taken in Rameshwaram, India. The Rameshwaram Swami Temple, I know, gosh, my tongue gets a little tied, is on an island at the tip of India and is dedicated to Shiva. Here, Shiva is worshipped as a pillar of light. Legend says that Lord Rama installed the Shiva Linga at the temple. This is a sacred space of cleansing and purification. There are 64 heavenly bodies of water in and around the temple. You can bathe in 14 of these heavenly bodies of water for purification. As you move from heavenly body of water to holy body of water, you are showered with a purifying bucket of water. I loved this ritual and am reminded of the importance of ritual in our lives. And this is the image that reminds me of our guest today, Patricia Wald-Hopkins. Trish, welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you for having me here.
So share yourself with us. Tell us about you.
I was getting lost in the imagery of being in sacred pools. I so long for water. Living in the Southwest United States. And that just sounds so nourishing for my system right now. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. I am a desert dweller, a high desert dweller, and I long to create little pockets of oasis in my life and in the lives of others. So that really feels good. About the sacred pools. I live really close to a sacred river. However, it's about 1,000 feet down a trail. So you have to really work to get down there, and then you have to work to get back up. But there are some sacred pools down there and lots of beautiful dragonflies, and then a river that has a lot of history running through it. And what does that say about me? I'm from New Mexico. I grew up here, and there's a lot of history here for me. And for some reason today, history is bringing up something I'm dealing with in my life right now, which is messiness. And, that ties back into having rituals that keep you centered, because life is messy, and I have 3 young children, and I maintain a private practice for my healing work. And I also do service out in the world as an environmental health professional. So my life is busy, and it gets messy. It gets really messy. and I, I honor all the women who do this, who, get up every day and make their way through the messiness and make it actually beautiful and a work of art. And that's what I love, is creating art out of your life.
I think there's something so beautiful there around embracing the messiness, sharing the messiness with each other so that we have permission to be messy from each other. And then that beautiful thing you're talking about, which is the sacred showing up in the mundane and turning your life into art, like gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have to share a funny story with you from my son this morning, who's 4. And he's learning how to color in the lines, right? He's learning how to be neat. And when I paint my art therapy, I am anything but neat. I mean, like, I just create essences of color with, a palette. And so he's looking at this picture that I created last week, which was called Calling the Light into the Shadows. And he looks at it and he goes, Mama, what's with that picture? It's messy. And I said, it is, honey. It is messy. And it's also beautiful. It's just the essence, it's just colors, playing, dancing. And he goes, oh, okay. But I mean, it's just all about, we're conditioned that we have to be neat all the time.
Yes.
And from when we're little, and it's not like it's a negative, it's not done to be negative. It's done for, to get you through life, to have a path, to have efficiency, to have a way to communicate with others. And I found that for me, I hit a point about 10 years ago where I had been so darn neat. I mean, I knew how to be neat. I did. I did everything to a T, and I knew, and if I didn't, I was crushed. And then I had something major shift in my life. And, basically I just let all that go and just became really open and free flowing and messy, really messy. And there's a little gem in that from going from extremes. Now I'm coming back to a place where I know when I want to be free and open and when I need to use more structure to communicate efficiently. And that is like the balance point in my life right now. That is the biggest lesson for me right now, is that place in the middle and knowing that I can go back and forth when I want to.
And
freedom.
Freedom. And that's so gorgeous, because I also walked a very linear path, but my life got really exciting when I started to let it zig and zag. Like there was less knowing, and in some moments that was much less comfortable, but that's when it got fun. And I love what you're talking about, because one of the things that has come to me in this journey I've been walking with honoring the feminine is the feminine tends to be about flow. And so there's that part of me that wanted to sort of give up the rigid linear structure. But what I've really realized, particularly in the last 6 to 9 months, is that structure is actually beautiful and important for me, because it creates the confidence to flow into. Because just flow for me becomes amorphous, and it gets, the power of it gets lost. And so I agree with you. There's this gorgeous dance that I've become so intentionally aware of around the structure and the flow. So yeah, can you speak more to how that shows up in your life and how that journey has gone?
Yeah, sure. I'd love to. So I find that I have to begin with the essence of bliss or passion or desires or pleasures. And for me, that could be something, as simple as having a vase of flowers, of roses in front of me. And it's just that feminine flow energy of colors around me, music, movement, being in nature. So that's like the alchemy of the feminine energy, I think. It softens me, it opens me up, it lets me let go of my rigidness of the structure that I've started to create around myself, which I outgrow frequently. I mean, there's no structure that can keep me for very long. It's always evolving. And so I have to be able to release that and then invite in a new one,
Gorgeous.
A new one that will hold my energy even more expansively. So I do that with chanting or sounding. I also do drumming, and essential oils take me into so many different dimensions and places that I play with. I blend. I'm an alchemist with energies and essential oils, and make my own blends for myself and for clients. And so I'm not sure if I'm getting to the point that that you're wanting, but I take this energy and I have to go.
You know what's funny is that I'm not wanting anything, my love. I love this journey. Like, it is so great to hear. And I love the idea of like the dynamic structure that keeps changing, that you have to, that's part of the flow.
That's part of the flow. And I feel like I've always felt like a chameleon of sorts. Like I just never get comfortable in a single skin. So if I can't change myself physically, which I try to do with clothing or jewelry or whatever, I change my environment. Mm-hmm. And so, there's even the days where I need to be in almost that masculine energy completely. Like I'll go to my other office, which is pretty much white and silver, and desks, and it's very edged, very edgy, very linear. And I'll bask in that for a day or two, and then I'm done with it. So, and I'm like, okay, I've been held by this for a few days now. I want to go back to where things are softer and more colorful and more flowy. And I kind of just bounce back and forth. And I'm like, I know a person I know called it a lily pad hopper. Oh. And I totally am. I'm like a little fairy, and I jump from one place to another, wherever I feel the magic for the day. And I'm perfectly happy living that way. And sometimes it drives people crazy because they can't track me. And I'm perfectly happy with not being tracked. But there's
also something beautiful there around being tapped into your intuition and being really discerning about what's most life affirming for today, for this moment. And that's gorgeous. Yeah.
And that's freedom to me, freedom of expression on a daily basis. It's like, I wake up today? What do I feel like experiencing today? How do I want to connect my body to this earth or to the heavens? Some days I'm more etheric and I just want to be in, a more of a meditative, silent place. And other days I want to be out and, interacting with people. And I find it interesting, that the more, though, that I am extroverted, the more that I have to find that quiet place, too. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, I think of it like the cycle of a flower. It has to go back all the way to getting the nutrients in the roots before it can bloom again. But it does. It's like a continual blooming. And that's sort of how I live my life. And enjoy my life. If I didn't have creativity in my life, I would be so bored, I would just fall asleep. And I mean, as a child, that's what my mother said. I knew we needed to change the subject when you turned pale and you were so bored. We knew you always, you needed to be learning, practicing, playing, doing something. And that's an interesting topic too, about overdoing it too. Learning that being too messy or doing too many things is actually not good for me as well, right? That's that balance again, where you can be so extroverted and so enmeshed and entangled in so many different energies that you lose your power.
Yes.
Your potency. So coming back to those sacred pools, to those quiet times, to the purification of your body, however you do that, is very important to me as well.
And you hit on something so beautiful. I mean, especially as women, we're cyclic beings.
Mm-hmm.
And feeling into your natural rhythm from whatever angle of approach feels good to you, right? So whether it's like tracking your menstrual cycle a bit and feeling as an access point, or just that deep discerning and checking in with your body every day, right? And like, however that feels good to you, finding your natural rhythm. Like as I've started to feel more and more my natural rhythms from these different access points, that feels free and powerful to me as well.
Mm-hmm. It does. That's true. I have been more engaged with my natural rhythm before I controlled it. I was, on birth control or some sort. So I didn't want to pay attention to it. And it wasn't, and then when I started to, it was like I could really notice when it was time for me to create and when it was time for me to rest. And I certainly have resisted it. I'm like, no, I'm just going to push through and I'm going to do it. Yeah.
I have no idea what you're talking about. But I totally feel that. And I think you've actually spoken to the collective desire to like not pay attention to it. I think we've collectively done that. Mm-hmm. And so I think we're awakening more to it, and that there's some beauty there for us.
Yeah, it's definitely tapping back into our power, the power of our essence. When I pay attention to it, and I do not like anything to ever hold me down. And so learning to respect my body has become like one of the pinnacles of my experience this last, couple of years, especially this year. I'd let my energy level get so down, my adrenals were suffering. Mm-hmm. And it's like, when is enough enough? When are you enough? And, everybody talks about that. But it's hard to let go of feeling like you're going to be missing out on something if you don't do that next thing. Well, and that it is very interesting. And our body holds so many messages if we're listening. So I'm an extrovert. But at the beginning of this year in January, my introvert I'll say she was demanding to be honored. Mm-hmm. And I knew that's what needed to happen, but it also felt uncomfortable for my extrovert on a regular basis. It was really fascinating to feel into the natural rhythms enough and to honor that, but still know that it felt uncomfortable for my extrovert a lot. Yeah. And that there was some real surrendering that I had to do and trusting that had to go on, that I could really truly honor my introvert during that time, and that it was all going to be okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 The slowing down, so you can actually hear your heart beating. Oh, yeah. Rather than just the movement. That's when nature calls me. So that's when I'm called to be outside. Even if I am moving, it's just different. Yeah. It's more subtle. But
So can you talk to us a little about your role as an alchemist and some of the alchemies that you work with? In particular, I'm really in a phase of water meets fire and that alchemy of the water and the fire. So can you speak to us a little bit about that?
Yes, I'd love to. I'm not sure what's going to come out, but we'll see.
Me neither, and I'm okay with it.
The alchemy of fire and water. Oh, the first thing that comes up for me is, so I'm a Cancer, but I'm right on the cusp of a Leo. So I'm on the, right there. And I totally feel that pull to be inside, to be reflective and to turn inward a lot. But there's this little fire of me, this Leo that wants to be out there and roar and, and I scare the Cancer part of myself. It scares me. It's like, oh my gosh, why do you need to do that?
Is that really necessary?
It takes so much of my quiet energy away. But that's just a little play on the fire and water alchemy. But what I have been playing with this past 6 months, it feels like, is learning to use the water to shape the fire. And I'll try to explain that a little bit, but I think maybe we've touched on this before. There's a cauldron in my second chakra and, right interfacing with the root chakra, and the root chakra being the fire and the sacral containing the water inside the cauldron. And it gives all that flow a shape, and it gives it a spark. to create, but it doesn't, neither the water doesn't douse out the fire, and the fire doesn't completely evaporate the water, and then you're left with nothing, which feels to me like how I end up when I don't let something contain me. I'm either burnt up or I'm drowned. And having this container created by, it can be the feminine or the masculine energies creating that container for me, has been a way for me to work with fire and water so that they actually enhance one another and make something that you could never make without both of them. So that's where the alchemy comes into place, is using both those elements to be creative in your life. Mm-hmm. That's where I think the voice of my creatrix comes from that cauldron and comes up through my solar plexus and through my heart and out through my voice. And it's also blending with the divine energies as I learn to open up my crown to receive.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so then when you express yourself, or myself through my voice, it has purpose and meaning and a precision to it that it wouldn't have if I was just leaking energy all the time and not being mindful. I'm not sure if that's getting at
no, I love the idea and the remembering around containers. Mm-hmm. Because there's such a beautiful way that we can hold for ourselves, that we can hold for each other. And so containers is where that happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, containers. And that's actually one of my fascinations right now and that I'm inclined to do is to create containers that are for certain purposes. Mm-hmm. So there's different ways of looking at people's design, right? What they're made to do. There's different techniques for doing that. And I've been exploring those even within groups and just seeing when you combine certain people together, what kind of container, what kind of alchemy are you going to make? And I think we all do that intuitively, but to actually do that in advance, like sit down, I want to create, a container for bliss or, for serenity or peace, or maybe all three of those, or, it's just like creating an essential oil blend. It's like, what do I want to call in? And using these tools to help you call in people that represent those ingredients.
Yeah.
And I just love that. That's what lights me up a lot. Is blending, the alchemy of blending people energy, the energy of place. It's like, what do you get when you add two mystics and maybe a warrior in the middle of the desert? I mean, what magic are you going to make there? Or, at these sacred pools, if you take, a tiger and a dragon and, it's fun to play with, but it also has a lot of purpose. It can really be used to be precise about what you want to create.
Well, and I think it's so beautiful in our lives, too, that we can start to create containers and then call in, right? So if you start with your intention of, I'd like to create a container for serenity, right? Mm-hmm. And then you start to call in the two mystics, a warrior and a heroine in, right? You've infuse that container with the intention, but then all the women together start to hold that container. Mm-hmm, and that's something that has been such a mind blower for me, because as a warrior, I often have shown up to hold everything. I shall hold it. Mm-hmm. And it's depleting in the end, even though I've set it up that way. Mm-hmm. And so, and it's disempowering for those that I'm calling into the container, right? Because when I can just start to infuse the container with intention, and then we all start to come in and dance and hold together, That's powerful. And we all feel the power of it, and we're all part of the power of it. It's really enlivening it within us.
Yeah.
Versus Shannon the warrior holds the container and invites you to come in. Right? It's very, but it's something that I continue to play with, because some of that natural rhythm for me is to hold and fight for that container.
Yeah. And that's like alchemy as well. It's like when, even when you're cooking, you have your chicken, but then you add, thyme, or you add, sage or whatever. It actually brings out more flavors that you would never had before, like you wouldn't have alone. And it actually, draws, like the salt will draw the juices more out of the chicken, or whatever you want to say. But, in a group, if you put 3 different people together with the intention of serenity or whatever it is, and they actually unlock parts that you didn't know you had within you that were hidden. They begin to unlock those parts in you. You help each other. And so you actually walk away more you than you were, more able to express yourself than you could before. And that's the beauty of groups too, I feel like.
Yeah. And I think you're speaking to what I have learned is the beauty of sisterhood.
Yes.
In that enlivening and remembering.
Yep. Enlivening and remembering. Mm-hmm.
Gorgeous. Yeah. So can you talk to us a little about how you honor the feminine and stay in touch with your intuition?
Silence. Like it's more, it's almost like sensory deprivation. I have to be in a place where I'm not disturbed at all for periods of time with sound and softness. That's how I stay in touch, is with things that invite softness into my life. Soft fabrics, soft pillows, soft music. My daughter always likes to tell me, I love your soft music you listen to, Mama. And I'm like, I know, I love it too. And also sparkly things, light things. So I guess the environment really tunes me into the feminine energy.
Yeah.
Like what I create around myself, it wakes up that feminine energy in me. So I think I use a lot of props like that to center myself and to honor the feminine. As far as bringing it out into service, in the world, I think I let that happen through group work and one-on-one work, and just holding a space for people to explore themselves that's soft and kind and supportive, just like a mother is most of the time with their children. But there's always time for straightening out. But just definitely being soft and open and flowy to let people really experience all aspects of themselves without judgment and without, Yeah,
that makes me want to just like settle in there,
Pull up a silky cushion and sit down.
You actually mentioned earlier, and it like dawned on me, you talked about, when you were talking about pleasure and bliss and desires, around like bringing in flowers. And that's something I've done recently, is to, every few weeks buy some fresh flowers that, go on our kitchen table. And it feels lovely. And there was a time where I would have said I didn't need that. And that felt wasteful of whatever finances, or, however that shows up, that story. But the amount of joy that it brings me to have them in our home is so much more than the $3 to $5 I've spent on them, if you will, and but to get over that story for me, and to just feel into like, oh yeah, that feels good. I can do that to feel good, to bring that energy in.
Yeah, definitely. It's just a mini infusion every time you walk by them. Yeah, definitely.
And I hadn't quite thought of it like that, so thank you.
I love mini infusions of delight. You gotta have them out there in the prickly weeds, even when you're of
mini
life.
Infusions of delight. Oh, I love that. Oh, yes, and to feel the colors and oh. So, talk to us a little about your work at Mariposa,
At Mariposa Body, yeah. Well,
and Mariposa is butterfly.
Yes,
in
it
Spanish.
is.
Yeah,
yeah.
For those that don't know.
Yeah, Mariposa means butterfly, and well, it's interesting. This, I've had this business for since 2008. I suppose that's when I first opened it, and it's evolved so much. I did a lot of body work, and then I started to do more energy work, and then got into doing meditations and coaching and guiding, and I do work out of my studio in person for people, invite them in, or I do virtual work, and over Skype or Zoom. And I run my apothecary, I call it, out of here, where I make my blends. And I'm just, the reason I say I'm an energy alchemist is because I used all these various different techniques. And I think most of us do. We have all our techniques that we use to blend something. Mine tends to always be infusing people with some layer of creativity as a portal to unlocking what's holding them in pain. I have a lot of people that have walked into my space because they're in profound pain, or emotional or physical, and myself having been through that, I kind of know how to get in there and use color and all your senses to unlock that vice of pain that it has on your life, and how it sort of twists you and crushes you into a certain shape. And so the softness that I invite into your system allows you to almost unfold and to start to remember what your real, your true shape is. And then you can begin to explore the world even more deeply, like the pleasurable aspects of it, while you're healing your body at the same time. Because we all have, mending that we have to do. Our body's always regenerating itself. And so, my work is part of nourishing you through energy, Reiki. I'm a Reiki practitioner, and Usui and Karuna. So I use chanting in Reiki. And so I use that as a mode for tuning your body.
Yeah.
And I love to tune people's bodies and places so that they're at a higher frequency and more able to access the use of their gifts, whatever it is that you're called here to share with the world. And so that's what excites me about my work now, is helping people tune their bodies so that they can be make a stronger signal of who they are out in the world. Me going from being very shy and quiet and hidden, this has been quite a journey for me to even be doing this right now. I mean, I always spoke in front of groups, but it was very methodical. I had it all written out, and I used to speak in front of scientific groups or whatever. And now it's just like, it just lights me up when I talk, because I get so excited about the things I do. And that's what I want people to experience, to be delighted and excited to be who they are, and to just, blossom like a flower or spread their wings like a butterfly. We all have our own colors on our wings when we learn to spread them and fly. And, that's what I hope for people, is to take flight and to enjoy their bodies and all of their selves. They're multicolors.
Gorgeous. Such beautiful work. So, my love, are you ready for the random questions?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So, if you could sit down with any woman, alive or dead, for a chat and tea, who would it be?
Oh, my goodness. Mary Magdalene.
Mm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When did you start your relationship with Mary Magdalene? I'm just curious because she's
consciously.
Yes. Yes, unconsciously forever. That's already an assumption of mine. I should have just said that.
Oh, probably about 3 years ago, when I really started doing a lot of my Reiki training. Mm-hmm. And then she just always seems to surface. And my work has tended to revolve around the voice. And I know she's very supportive for the voice. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like that's how she's been called into my field. And it's also something about like the way that I held myself in the world before was I was ashamed of myself for not I wanted to show up a certain way that I was told I had to. And I had a lot of heavy shame on me for wanting to be something more colorful, something more vibrant, something more out there, and being seen. And so she's taught me a lot about that, about accepting who I am and knowing that it's okay to be different. It's okay to have a voice that not everybody understands or gets. And it's all right to be magical and and publicly.
I totally resonate with that. Like I am getting more I'm getting more attuned to my magic and the magic of the world. And secondly, I am getting more comfortable sharing all of that.
Yeah, same here. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Gorgeous. It's lovely to be on journeys like that with sisters together,
Mm-hmm.
So the second question is, where would you most like to travel?
Oh, that's easy. Hawaii. I haven't been there yet. No, Hawaii calls me a lot. I also want to go back to the Himalayas again. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm obsessed with Pele at the moment, so I also feel the call to Hawaii right now.
Yeah, I really need to get there.
I went when I was like 12,
Oh, well, at least you've been.
I have. I have stood on Hawaii, but yeah, she is the fiery volcano goddess is swirling on me.
Well, I believe that when you travel places, you not only carry a transmission with you there, but you are given one that supports your system to evolve. And there's some power there and just some healing to be done in that special place. Yeah. Watch out when we get there again, huh?
Yeah, totally. So my love, how do we reach out and connect with you? How do we get more Trish in our lives?
Well, you can visit my website, which is mariposabodyandwellness.com. So mariposabodyandwellness.com. I know that's long.
Well, and we will put, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, or you can Trish at mariposabodyandwellness.com. So you can email me there as well.
And we will put all of that on the show notes for this episode at honorthefeminine.com. So you can really easily deepen in with Trish. My love, thank you for today.
Thank you. This was so much fun.
It was fun. Hello again, everyone. I loved being with Trish and to be able to share her with you today. She truly is an energy alchemist. And I wanted to speak into how she and I first connected. And it was around my desire to feel more deeply into the alchemy of fire and water. The idea had been dropping in for a while around how fire and water work together and how they were showing up in my life. And then on Instagram, I saw Trish had this gorgeous image around the alchemy of fire and water. And so I reached out to connect with her, to feel more deeply into that with her, and was just blown away by her wisdom and the beauty that she brings to every moment and the messiness that can be beautiful. And so I hope you enjoyed getting to know her more. And if you want to deepen in with Trish, you can go to the show notes for this episode over at honorthefeminine.com. Here at the podcast, we have a lot of really amazing things happening. I am teaming up with my dear soul sister, Ava Aldinolfi, and we are stepping into Remembering Divine Union, a place where we're intertwining, where we're feeling into and playing with the intertwining of the sacred masculine and divine feminine, those energies that live within each of us, and how we can really stand in our power by feeling into both within us. And so we are going to be blogging about that, and really starting to pull that apart and unpack it. It's going to be really fun. And so if you want to follow that journey, you can go over to rememberingdivineunion.com and sign up there. Also, I have a couple of ways to more deeply connect with the podcast. You can join us on Patreon, where you can be a part of the podcast by contributing monthly. And Patreon's just a way for you to show your love for the podcast. And there'll be some special things going on over there for contributions. And then we have our sacred space on Facebook at Honor the Feminine Daily to, again, connect more deeply with me and with the sisters and the tribe around the Honor the Feminine family. And finally, subscribe to the podcast. We have some amazing guests coming up, some amazing episodes, and I wouldn't want you to miss any of that. And if you're loving it, tell a friend. It's how I come across all my new podcasts, is through recommendations from my dear sisters. All right, everyone. Have a beautiful day.